15 people sat in my restaurant that Saturday night. Not at tables, not eating, just sitting in the dining room chairs they'd pulled into 3 neat rows, hands folded in their laps, facing the front door. The kitchen was dark, the bar was empty, and I was standing behind the host stand where my father had stood for 30 years before me, where I'd stood for 32 years after that, waiting. My daughter Diana had no idea what was coming. Let me back up and explain how we got here. Because 3 months ago, I would have told you Diana was the most important person in my life. My wife Marie passed 7 years back. Cancer took her fast, and after that it was just me and Diana running Morrison's Italian kitchen together. Well, Diana and me and the memory of my father, whose hands built this place in 1978 when this neighborhood was nothing but empty storefronts and broken dreams. I'm Robert Morrison. I'm 62 years old, and for most of my adult life, the smell of garlic and olive oil has meant home. My father, Vincent Morrison, came from a small town outside Naples. He married my mother, brought her to America, and opened this restaurant with money he'd saved working construction. He taught me everything. How to make pasta dough that's firm but tender. How to reduce a tomato sauce until it's sweet and thick. How to treat staff like family and customers like guests in your home. When he died 12 years ago, his last words to me were in the hospital room, his hand gripping mine with surprising strength. You keep the restaurant alive, Roberto. You pass it to Diana someday. Family business. Always family. I promised him I would. Diana was 22 then, fresh out of college with a business degree she didn't know what to do with. She'd worked at Morrison's through high school, mostly as a hostess, sometimes helping in the kitchen. After her grandfather died, she asked if she could come on full-time, help me manage things. I said yes, immediately. My girl, wanting to carry on the family legacy. It felt like Vincent's spirit was still looking out for us. For 12 years, we worked side by side. She managed the books, handled suppliers, dealt with the business side, while I focused on the kitchen and the customers. She was good at it too, organized, detail-oriented. She renegotiated our lease twice, saving us thousands. She set up online ordering. She hired a marketing consultant who got us featured in local food blogs. I trusted her completely. About 8 months ago, Diana came to me with an idea. We were closing up one Tuesday night, just the two of us, counting out the register. She said, "Dad, I've been thinking, the restaurant needs to modernize. Update the menu, the decor, the systems, everything." I looked around at the wood-paneled walls, the photographs of customers from 4 decades, the bar my father built with his own hands. "What's wrong with how it is?" "Nothing's wrong with it," she said, and her smile was patient, like she was explaining something simple to a child. "But we could be doing better. I've been running numbers. If we update, we could increase revenue by 30%. "We're doing fine," I said. "We're surviving," she corrected. "Dad, I want this place to thrive. For you, for Grandpa Vincent's memory. Let me help." What father says no to that? What father hears his daughter talking about honoring her grandfather and doesn't feel his chest swell with pride? Over the next few months, Diana brought me papers to sign. New supplier contracts, updated employee agreements, insurance documents, loan applications for renovations. She'd explain each one quickly, pointing to the signature lines, and I'd sign. She was handling everything, she said. All I had to do was keep cooking. I signed everything she put in front of me. In early September, my sister called. She lives in Sarasota, and she'd been having health problems. Nothing life-threatening, but she needed someone there for a week while she recovered from knee surgery. No one else could do it. Her kids live overseas. I was it. I told Diana I needed to go to Florida for a week. "Of course, Dad," she said. "I'll handle everything here. You take care of Aunt Patricia." I left on a Monday morning. I called the restaurant every day from Florida, and every day Diana told me things were fine. Busy weekend. New supplier delivered on time. Everything running smooth. I got back the following Tuesday, early morning. I drove straight to the restaurant from the airport because we had prep work to do and I wanted to check on the kitchen. I pulled into the parking lot and stopped. The sign had changed. Where Morrison's Italian kitchen had been painted in green and white for 45 years, There was now a new sign, sleek, modern, red and black lettering. Diana's Trattoria. I sat in my car, staring at it. Maybe it was a surprise. Maybe she'd gotten the sign updated as part of the modernization plan and wanted it to be a father-daughter thing, both our names on it. Maybe Diana's was short for Diana and Roberts, something like that. I walked to the front door. The key didn't work. I tried it 3 times, thinking maybe I was using the wrong key. But no, the lock had been changed. I pulled out my phone and called Diana. She answered on the second ring. "Dad, you're back early." "I'm at the restaurant," I said. "The lock's been changed." Silence for a moment. "Then, I was going to call you this morning. We need to talk." "About what?" "Diana, why won't my key work?" "Come to my apartment," she said. "We'll talk there." "I want to talk at the restaurant." "This is my restaurant." Another pause. Longer this time. When she spoke again, her voice was different. Cooler. Professional. "Actually, Dad, it's not. Not anymore. I'll text you my address. Come over." She hung up. I stood there in the parking lot, phone still pressed to my ear, trying to understand what I'd just heard. Not my restaurant. Not anymore. The words didn't make sense. They were in English, but they might as well have been another language. I drove to Diana's apartment in a daze. She lived 10 minutes away, a nice 2-bedroom place she'd moved into after her divorce 3 years ago. She answered the door in business casual, slacks and a blouse, like she was heading to a meeting. "Come in," she said. I walked past her into the living room. My grandson, Tyler, was at the kitchen table eating cereal. He was 7. He saw me, and his face lit up. "Grandpa!" "Hey, buddy," I managed. My voice sounded strange even to me. "Tyler, go watch TV in your room for a bit," Diana said. "Grandpa and I need to talk." Tyler grabbed his bowl and left. Diana waited until his bedroom door closed, then turned to me. "I've taken over full operations of the restaurant," she said. Just like that, matter of fact. Like she was telling me she'd changed cable providers. "What are you talking about?" She walked to the kitchen counter and picked up a folder. Brought it to me. "The papers you signed over the last few months, they weren't supplier contracts and loan applications. They were transfer documents. You signed the restaurant over to me. Full ownership. It's all legal. I had 3 lawyers review it." I opened the folder with shaking hands. The papers inside might as well have been written in code. Legal language, dense paragraphs, signature lines with my name scrawled next to them. "Why?" The word came out as barely a whisper. "Because you were running it into the ground," Diana said, and there wasn't even anger in her voice. Just cold certainty. Revenues down 8% year over year. Outdated systems. Terrible online presence. No growth strategy. "You're a good cook, Dad, but you're a terrible businessman. Someone had to save it. By stealing it from me?" "I didn't steal anything. You signed everything willingly. It's your signature on every document. You lied to me about what I was signing." "I managed the situation," she corrected. "And now I'm managing the business. I've already been in contact with a restaurant group. They want to buy the property and the name. I'm selling for $750,000. My cut after debts is about $400,000. The room tilted. I grabbed the arm of her couch to steady myself. "You're selling your grandfather's restaurant?" "I'm liquidating an asset." "That's your family. You're liquidating." "That's exactly what I'm doing," she said, and for the first time I saw something flicker in her eyes. Not quite guilt, maybe discomfort. "Look, I'll give you $50,000 from the sale. That's generous, considering you have no legal claim to it anymore." I looked at my daughter, really looked at her, and I realized I didn't know who she was. Maybe I never had. "Get out of my apartment," she said, pulling her phone from her pocket. "I have a meeting with the buyers in an hour." I left. I drove around for 3 hours. I couldn't go home. I couldn't think. I ended up at a park near the restaurant, sitting on a bench, watching joggers and dog walkers pass by like life was normal, like the world hadn't just inverted itself. My phone rang. Marcus Rivera. He was one of our regular customers, came in every Friday for chicken parmigiana and a glass of Chianti. He was also a lawyer, though we'd never talked about anything but food and baseball. "Robert," he said when I answered. I just heard something very disturbing from Tony Caruso. He said Diana's been calling suppliers, telling them Morrison's is under new management. It is, I said. My voice sounded hollow. What happened? I told him everything. When I finished, there was a long silence on the line. Robert, do you still have copies of what you signed? No. Diana had all the paperwork. Do you remember what the document said? Any specifics? I tried to think back through the fog of panic and betrayal. There was something about business transfer, updated ownership structure. She said it was for liability purposes, protecting me if anything went wrong. And you didn't read it carefully? She's my daughter. She's my daughter, Marcus. Another silence. Okay, listen to me. Don't sign anything else. Don't agree to anything verbally. I'm going to make some calls. Can you meet me at my office in an hour? I met him. Marcus's office was in a converted brownstone downtown, the kind of place that felt professional but not intimidating. He was waiting in the conference room with another lawyer, a woman named Jennifer Park who specialized in contract fraud. They asked me to walk through everything again, slowly this time. Every conversation with Diana, every paper I'd signed, every detail I could remember. Jennifer took notes. When I finished, she looked at Marcus, then at me. This is fraud, she said simply. If you signed documents under false pretenses, believing you were signing supplier contracts when you were actually signing transfer of ownership papers, that's textbook fraud. The signatures are valid, but the consent isn't. She obtained your signature through deception. Hope flickered in my chest for the first time since that morning. Can I get the restaurant back? We can try, Marcus said. But we need evidence. Anything that shows she misrepresented what you were signing. Emails, text messages, witnesses. The staff, I said suddenly. The staff knew. They had to know. Diana's been working with them for 12 years. Then we start there, Jennifer said. Over the next week, I learned things about my daughter that broke my heart in new ways each day. Carmen, our head waitress who'd been with us for 8 years, came to Marcus's office. She sat across from us, wringing her hands, guilt written all over her face. I knew, she said quietly. Not all of it, but I knew something was wrong. Diana told us 3 months ago that she was taking over ownership. She said you'd agreed to retire, that you were stepping back. But then she started changing things. New suppliers, different hours. She wanted to fire Miguel and Rosa, said we needed younger staff. I asked if you knew about the changes, and she said of course you did. You'd approved everything. Did you believe her? Jennifer asked. Carmen looked at me with tears in her eyes. I wanted to. She's your daughter, Mr. Morrison. I thought she must be telling the truth. But then when you went to Florida, she changed the locks. She said it was for security, but it felt wrong. And then the sign changed, and she told us we worked for her now, not you. Why didn't anyone call me? She said if anyone contacted you, they'd be fired immediately, and she'd make sure they never got hired at another restaurant in the city. She knows everyone, Mr. Morrison. All the owners. We were scared. 3 more staff members came forward with similar stories. Miguel, our line cook. Rosa, who'd been doing prep work for a decade. Even the part-time dishwasher, a college kid named Sam who said Diana had threatened to report him to immigration if he talked. Never mind that he was born in Pennsylvania. The picture that emerged was of careful planning. Diana had been setting this up for at least 6 months, maybe longer. She'd gradually positioned herself as the decision-maker. She'd isolated me from the business side of operations. She'd created a paper trail that made it look like a legitimate transfer of ownership. But she'd made mistakes. Jennifer found emails. Diana had been communicating with the restaurant group since March, months before she brought me the first modernization papers. In one email, she wrote, I'll have full ownership transferred by September. My father is completely trusting. He'll sign anything I put in front of him. We found security footage. The cameras I thought were for theft prevention had captured Diana in the office late at night, going through files, making copies. In one clip, she fed papers into the shredder. We found bank records showing Diana had opened a separate business account without my knowledge, and had been redirecting some of the restaurant's income into it for 3 months. We have a case, Jennifer said after we'd compiled everything. A strong one. But Robert, I need to be honest with you. This is going to be expensive. Legal fees, court costs, and it's going to be ugly. You're suing your daughter for fraud. Are you prepared for that? I thought about my father, about his hands teaching mine how to knead dough, about his voice saying, family business, Roberto, always family. I thought about Diana as a little girl, standing on a step stool in the kitchen, helping me stir sauce, her face serious with concentration. Then I thought about her face that morning in her apartment, cold, calculated, calling my life's work an asset to liquidate. I'm prepared, I said. We filed suit the next day. Diana didn't respond the way I expected. No phone call, no attempt to talk. She hired a lawyer, a shark from a downtown firm, and he sent a letter that basically said, the transfers were legal, the signatures are valid, the case will be dismissed. Stop harassing Miss Morrison. But Jennifer and Marcus didn't stop. They filed for an emergency injunction to prevent the sale to the restaurant group. The judge granted it temporarily, pending a hearing. That's when things got nasty. Diana started a whisper campaign. I heard about it from Carmen, who heard it from a friend who knew someone who knew Diana. The story Diana was spreading. I was a bitter old man who couldn't accept that I'd failed. I'd run the restaurant into the ground and blamed everyone but myself. I'd willingly retired and now I regretted it, so I was making up lies about my own daughter to get attention. Some people believed her. I'd see former customers around town and they'd look away. One guy, someone who'd been coming to Morrison's for 15 years, actually crossed the street when he saw me, but others didn't believe her. The third week after I filed suit, Rosa called me. Mr. Morrison, can you meet me at the restaurant? Tonight, after closing? I met her in the parking lot at 11 p.m. She wasn't alone. Miguel was there, Carmen, Sam, 4 other staff members, and 3 people I didn't expect. Regular customers. Tony Caruso, who'd been coming to Morrison since the 80s. Helen Wu, who had her wedding rehearsal dinner there. Frank Delgado, whose kids practically grew up in our back booth. We want to help, Rosa said. Help how? Tony stepped forward. He was a big guy, early 60s, worked in construction. We don't believe Diana's story. We know you, Robert. We know what this place means to you. And we know you wouldn't just give it away. We want to testify, Helen said. We'll tell the court what Morrison's was like under you, what kind of owner you were, what kind of person. And we'll tell them what it's like under Diana, Miguel added quietly. How she treats staff, how she talks about you behind your back, how she's already gutting everything your father built. I couldn't speak. My throat was too tight. There's more, Carmen said. She looked at Rosa, who nodded. We've been documenting things, the changes Diana's making, the way she's running things. We have copies of her new supplier contracts. They're getting kickbacks. The suppliers are giving her money under the table for the business. That's bribery, Tony said. And I used to be a cop. I know how these things work. Over the next 2 weeks, these people, my people, helped build the case. Marcus and Jennifer took statements from all of them. The evidence pile grew. But Diana had the restaurant. Every day it stayed in her name was another day I wasn't there. Another day the place changed. I drove by once and saw she'd painted over the mural my father had commissioned in 1985, a Naples street scene. She'd replaced it with a generic modern art piece. I sat in my car and cried. The court date was set for October 15th. Jennifer warned me it could take months to actually get to trial, but the preliminary hearings would determine whether the injunction stayed in place. 3 days before the hearing, Rosa called again. Mr. Morrison, she said, and her voice had an edge to it I'd never heard before. Saturday night, Diana's having a special event. She invited the buyers from the restaurant group to come see the place in operation. She wants to prove she's a good owner, so they'll keep the deal active even with the injunction. Okay, I said, not sure where this was going. We have an idea, all of us, staff and some of the customers. But we need your permission. Permission for what? She told me. I sat there listening, my heart pounding harder with each word. It was risky. It could backfire. But God, it was beautiful. Do it, I said. Saturday came. I arrived at Morrison's at 6 p.m., let in through the back door by Miguel. The staff was already there. So were the customers who'd volunteered to help. 15 people total. The plan was simple. The buyers were coming at 7. Diana would be there to host them, show them around, prove the business was running smoothly. But when they arrived, they weren't going to see a smoothly running business. They were going to see something else entirely. We moved all the dining room chairs into 3 rows facing the front door. 15 chairs. 15 people sat down, the staff in uniform, the customers in their regular clothes, all of them silent. Waiting. I stood behind the host stand. At 6:55, I heard Diana's car pull up. Then voices. She was bringing the buyers in through the front entrance, wanting them to see the new sign first. The door opened. Diana walked in first. She was dressed for success. Dark suit, heels, her hair done. Behind her were 3 people in business attire. The buyers. Diana stopped mid-sentence when she saw us. The 15 people sitting there, silent, staring at her. And me, behind the host stand, in the spot where I'd stood for 32 years. What Diana started. Tony Caruso stood up. He was in the front row. He pulled an envelope from his pocket and placed it on the nearest table. He didn't say anything. He just looked at Diana, then sat back down. Helen Wu stood up, another envelope on another table, sat down. One by one, all 15 people stood up, placed an envelope on a table, and sat back down. Diana's face went from confused to angry to something close to panic. "Dad, what is this? You need to leave. You're trespassing." "I don't think he is," said a new voice from the doorway. Marcus Rivera walked in, Jennifer Park right behind him. Behind them was someone else. A man in his 50s, official-looking. "Miss Morrison," the man said, "I'm Detective James Walsh, Fraud Division. We need to ask you some questions." Diana's lawyer appeared out of nowhere, stepping forward. "My client won't be answering anything without—" "That's fine," Detective Walsh said calmly. "We can do this downtown if you prefer." The buyers were backing toward the door, clearly wanting no part of whatever this was. Jennifer picked up one of the envelopes, opened it, read aloud. "To the court and to whomever it may concern. I, Tony Caruso, have been a customer of Morrison's Italian Kitchen for 38 years. I have known Robert Morrison for almost 4 decades. I have known Diana Morrison for her entire life. What she has done to her father is fraud. I witnessed her lying to him about business documents on 3 separate occasions. I am willing to testify under oath. This restaurant belongs to Robert Morrison." She picked up another envelope. "I, Carmen Rodriguez, have worked for Robert Morrison for 8 years. Diana Morrison told me explicitly that her father didn't know about the ownership transfer. She threatened my job if I told him. I am willing to testify. Envelope after envelope, testimony after testimony, staff members, customers, all of it documented, all of it sworn." Diana's face had gone white. "In addition," Marcus said, stepping forward, "we have security footage showing Miss Morrison destroying business documents. We have bank records showing embezzlement, and we have email correspondence proving premeditated fraud." He looked at Diana. There was no triumph in his face, just sadness. "You should have just asked him, Diana. He would have given you the restaurant, eventually. He would have done it right, with papers and lawyers and everything clear. All you had to do was ask." Diana's lawyer was pulling her toward the door, whispering urgently in her ear. Detective Walsh followed them out, still calm, still professional. The buyers had already left. And then it was just us. Me and the 15 people who'd shown up to fight for me. Rosa started crying. Miguel put an arm around her shoulders. Carmen came to the host stand and hugged me, and she was crying too. "We got your restaurant back, Mr. Morrison," she said. "We got our restaurant back," I corrected. The legal process took another 6 weeks. Diana fought it at first, her lawyer filing motion after motion, but the evidence was overwhelming. The emails alone would have been enough. The witness testimonies sealed it. In the end, her lawyer convinced her to settle. She signed papers returning full ownership to me. She paid my legal fees, $32,000. She paid restitution for the money she'd diverted from the business accounts. And she accepted a plea deal on the fraud charges. 5 years probation, community service, restitution to me for damages. I didn't see her during any of it. Her lawyer handled everything. The day the restaurant officially became mine again, I stood in the empty dining room before opening. The staff had thrown a small party the night before, celebrating, but now it was just me and the silence. I walked to where Diana had painted over my father's mural. I'd already hired an artist to restore it, but the work hadn't started yet. It was just blank wall right now. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Dad. Diana's voice. I hadn't heard it in almost 2 months. Diana. Silence for a moment. I'm moving. Colorado. My lawyer thinks it's best if I leave the city. Fresh start. Okay. Tyler asks about you. He doesn't understand why he can't see Grandpa anymore. The knife that statement was twisted. You can bring him by. No, she interrupted. That's not why I called. I called to say, I'm not going to apologize. I did what I thought I had to do. But I want you to know I didn't do it to hurt you. Then why? Another long pause. Because I needed to prove I could do something on my own. Something bigger than just being Vincent Morrison's granddaughter or Robert Morrison's daughter. I needed to be someone. You were already someone. No, Dad. I was your helper. I was your daughter who worked at your restaurant. That's all I'd ever be if I stayed. So, you tried to take everything I had? I tried to take control of my own life. I closed my eyes, leaned against the wall where my father's mural used to be. You could have talked to me. You wouldn't have understood. You didn't give me the chance. Silence. Then, very quietly, I know. More silence. I could hear her breathing on the other end of the line, waiting for something. Forgiveness, maybe. Understanding. I didn't have either to give. I have to go, I finally said. We're opening in an hour. Dad. I hung up. I stood there for a long time, phone in my hand, staring at that blank wall. Carmen found me there 20 minutes later. Mr. Morrison, you okay? Yeah, I said. Yeah, I'm okay. She didn't believe me, but she didn't push. Rosa made fresh mozzarella this morning. The good kind, like your father used to make. He'd like that. We opened at 5. The dining room filled up by 5:30. Regular customers, many of whom I hadn't seen since Diana took over. People who'd read about the case in the local paper. People who wanted to show support. Tony Caruso had his usual table. He ordered chicken parmigiana and a glass of Chianti, just like he had every Friday for 30 years. When I brought the food out myself, he looked up at me. Welcome home, Robert. Thanks for fighting for me, Tony. Wasn't fighting for you, he said. Was fighting for this place, for what it means, for what your father built. You just happened to be the guy who represented all that. I went back to the kitchen. Miguel was working the line. Rosa was prepping for the next order. Sam was dealing with dishes. Everything moving like a machine, like it always had, like it was supposed to. But it felt different now. There was a shadow over everything, a Diana-shaped hole in my life that I didn't know how to fill. I went to my office during a lull, the office I'd been locked out of for 2 months. Diana had changed things here too. New furniture, new filing system. But she'd left one thing, a framed photo of the 3 of us, her and me and Marie, taken at Tyler's christening. Diana was holding the baby. I had my arm around her. We were all smiling. I picked up the frame, studied it, tried to remember what that day felt like. But the memory was fuzzy now, tinted with everything that came after. I put the photo face down in a drawer. That night, after closing, I sat at the bar with Marcus and Jennifer. They'd stopped by for a drink to celebrate the win. You did it, Jennifer said, raising her glass. You got your restaurant back. We did it, I corrected. I couldn't have without you, without everyone. So what now? Marcus asked. Business as usual? I looked around the restaurant, at the walls my father had built, at the tables where thousands of people had shared meals over 4 decades, at the kitchen where I'd spent most of my adult life. I don't know, I said honestly. I thought getting it back would feel like winning, like everything was fixed. But it doesn't feel that way. Because it's not just about the restaurant, Jennifer said gently. It's about Diana. And that's not something a court ruling can fix. I nodded. She called me today. She's moving to Colorado. And Tyler? Marcus asked. She's taking him with her. Marcus shook his head. I'm sorry, Robert. I know that's not what you wanted. It wasn't. But it was what I had. They left around midnight. I stayed, walking through the empty restaurant one more time. I went to the kitchen, pulled out my father's old recipe book. The pages were stained with tomato sauce and olive oil, the corners worn from decades of use. His handwriting filled every page. Instructions in Italian, measurements, notes about what worked and what didn't. On the first page, he'd written something I hadn't looked at in years. Per Roberto. When I'm gone, this is yours. Take care of it. Take care of the family. Love, Papa. I read it 3 times. Then I closed the book and turned off the lights. I drive past Diana's old apartment sometimes, even though she's been gone for 3 months now. It's habit more than anything. The route takes me right by it on the way to the restaurant. Tyler's 7th birthday was last week. I sent a card to the Colorado address. I don't know if Diana will give it to him. The restaurant is doing well, better than it was under Diana, actually. The customers came back. The staff is loyal. We got a good review in the food section of the paper. The kind of review my father would have cut out and framed. But late at night, after everyone's gone home and I'm alone in the kitchen, I think about what my father said. Take care of the family. I kept the restaurant. I saved the business. I honored his legacy in every way except the one that mattered most. I lost my daughter. Sometimes I wonder if there was a moment I could have done something different. If I'd read the papers more carefully. If I'd questioned her more. If I'd paid attention to the signs that must have been there. But then I remember what Jennifer said. She obtained your signature through deception. I wasn't supposed to be suspicious. I was supposed to be her father. Carmen asked me last week if I'd heard from Diana. I said no. She nodded, didn't push. But I saw the question in her eyes. The same question I ask myself. Will I ever forgive her? I don't know. What I do know is this. My father built Morrison's Italian kitchen with his own hands. He poured his life into it, and he trusted me to keep it alive, to keep the family together. I kept the restaurant alive. As for the family, well, some things break in ways that can't be fixed. Some betrayals are too deep. Some losses are permanent. I'm 62 years old. I own a successful restaurant. I have loyal staff and regular customers and a legacy worth protecting. But when I lock up at night and drive home alone, I think about a 7-year-old boy in Colorado who's probably forgetting what his grandfather's voice sounds like. And I wonder if I really won anything at all. Yesterday, a young couple came in for dinner. First-timers. They ordered the lasagna, my father's recipe, and when I brought it out, the woman said, "My grandmother used to make it like this. It reminds me of family dinners when I was little." I smiled, told her I was glad, went back to the kitchen, and I thought, this is what my father wanted. Not just a business, not just a name, but a place where people come to remember what family is supposed to feel like, even if I don't have that anymore myself. Morrison's Italian Kitchen is open Tuesday through Sunday, 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. The lasagna is still made from my father's recipe. The staff still treats customers like guests in their home. And I'm still there most nights, standing behind the host stand or working in the kitchen, keeping the promise I made to my father 12 years ago. I kept the restaurant alive. I just wish I'd known the price would be losing my daughter. But that's the thing about trust, isn't it? You don't know what it's worth until someone breaks it. And you don't know what you've lost until you realize you can never get it back. The restaurant opens in 3 hours. I need to start the sauce. Rosa will be in soon to make the mozzarella. Miguel will prep the stations. Carmen will set up the dining room. Life goes on. Morrison's Italian Kitchen goes on. And I keep cooking, because that's what I know how to do. That's what my father taught me. Even when your heart is broken, even when your family falls apart, even when the person who betrayed you shares your blood, you keep cooking. You keep the doors open. You keep the promise. And you hope that someday, somehow, it will be enough.